Hello, my name is Professor Tristram Hooley. I'm going to be talking to you today about career motivation. This is part of a course that we run at the Inland Norway University. In our course, we draw on Ileris's learning model to explore different career theories. And as we can see from this rendering of Ileris's theory, the idea of incentive or motivation is very important. So we need to think about what is it that motivates people to learn and to develop their careers. We don't need to be motivated in order to have a career. Everybody will have a career and it will happen no matter what we do. But if we want to influence our career, we are likely to need motivation. So motivation is important for helping us to think about the future, to make decisions, to undertake learning or doing anything else, and also dealing with setbacks and many other ways that we might develop our career. We can have both positive and negative motivation, and this is usually described as looking at the carrot versus the stick. So are we motivated to do something because it's nice and we want to do it, we'll get rewards if we do it, or because there might be punishment if we don't do it? Second important way to think about motivation is to think about whether it's intrinsic, whether it comes from within us, or whether it's extrinsic, whether it's seeking external reward, for example. So we can both be thinking about positive and negative motivation and intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And thinking about the balance between these different things really lies at the heart of all motivation theory. Now, if we look at this, this is from the Rice Motivation Profile. It's a sort of very well developed test for motivations. And what it looks at is a wide range of different things that might impact on us when we're thinking about motivation. And I think these are very useful to give us a way of thinking about career and how we are motivated for our career. Are we, for example, motivated by curiosity, or by the desire to have a family, or by perhaps the desire for order or to be organized and clean? There might be all sorts of different things that might motivate different people, and the balance within each person is likely to be somewhat different. So if we're thinking about learning, and this is where Ileris's theories come in useful, is we need to think about how motivation works within learning. And Ileris tells us that it's very important. I think we can be motivated to learn if we have sufficient mental energy, emotional readiness, belief in our ability, and so on. And there are also a range of things within learning processes which might prevent us from learning. So they might give us anxieties about our capability to do it, or we might hit problems and this might demotivate us. So when we're learning, it's important to think about motivation, and particularly when we're working with others to help them to learn. Of course, motivation is also important in the world of work and in our work, and you probably have come across Maslow's hierarchy of needs before. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that we can think about a range of different things and see them as essentially a hierarchical arrangement of motivators. So essentially, until we've satisfied our sort of physiological needs, we can't think about other things. But at that point, we become concerned about safety and security, and then about love and belonging, and so on. There's been quite a lot of criticism of Maslow's theories, and I'm offering you this ERG theory of motivation as an alternative here. So the ERG theory talks about the importance of existence, growth, and relatedness. So these being sort of interactive things rather than hierarchical, but interactive things that help us to develop motivation to undertake different kinds of tasks. And these are very strongly related to David Bluestein's career theory, where he talks about work being a means to survive and gain power, to connect with others, and to offer us self-determination. So if we think about why people are motivated to work and to build a career, then all of these things are likely to be important. Our desire for power, our desire for survival, but also our relational interactions with others and our desire to do something for ourselves, our desire for autonomy. So all of these things, I think, lead us to questions about how malleable the idea of motivation is. Is motivation something that can change, it can shift, or is it something that's a fixed quality? And I think generally we can say that motivation is well understood to be a malleable quality, not something that's fixed at birth or at a particular age, but something that we can change and continue to change. So we can motivate ourselves, we can, tell ourselves to work harder and so on. We can motivate others around us, and we can also motivate groups, and organizations can think about how we create structures which might motivate people, as can societies and so on. So motivation is not fixed, it's not purely individual, it's a relational quality that's about our relations with other people. And there's lots and lots of theory about motivation, which I can't go through all of it today, but I'll just give you a few tasters. So Locke and Latham's theory is about goal setting, and they highlight various things that effective goals are going to be. So this is really about how do we influence others to be motivated. So this might be very useful for careers professionals. So we might think about the clarity of the goal, how far it challenges people, and so on. These factors that might give us a goal which is useful and usable, which motivates people, which stretches them but not too far, and so on. We also can recognize that we can motivate ourselves and motivate other people through a range of different techniques. So one of the things that we should probably do when we're working with people is to kind of explore people's competence. Are they capable of doing what we want them to do? And then again, we've got this idea of motivation as a relational concept. How do we connect them to others and give them relational concept? And again, also this idea of autonomy. So we start to see a few things that come through in lots and lots of different motivational theories, which are about our relationships with others, about our competence, about our ability to do things, but also about our autonomy to decide what to do. So I'm going to finish by just introducing very briefly an important career theory which has a lot to say about motivation. So this is the social cognitive theory, and it draws very strongly on the work of Bandura. And so Bandura wrote a lot about motivation and thinking about how people can be motivated, and particularly in relation to learning. And he saw it as an interaction between lots of different factors, so between peoples and their environments and their experiences and so on. So what Bandura's work tells us is that we have different abilities to act. We have different levels of confidence in our ability to perform a particular type of action. He calls this self-efficacy. This is a very important term that we're going to think about a lot. We have different expectations of what will happen when we act, so outcome expectations. We also learn by watching others and reacting to what they've done. And then our actions are reinforced positively and negatively by the environment around us. So these are the basis of the social cognitive theory. And so this idea of self-efficacy is really at the heart of it. And self-efficacy is about doing things well. It might be described as confidence often. It's about learning from the achievements of others, about being told we're good at things, about feeling good and positive. And all of these things variously increase and improve our confidence to undertake things. You might have seen a particular aspect of social cognitive theories in the work of Dweck. So the idea of a growth mindset, the sense that essentially if you believe you can do something, and also if you recognize that you have some capability to change things and make things happen, that you're more likely to make them happen. So this is one of the arguments that Dweck happens. Dweck was a very close collaborator, a student, in fact, of Bandura. Within the careers field, there are a number of writers, particularly Lent, Brown and Hackett, who think about how these ideas influence careers. And they're interested in how career interests develop, how people make career choices, how people perform in their careers, why people are satisfied with their work or educational choices, and how individuals manage their careers. And they sort of start with a range of factors that we will recognize from Bandura, so self-efficacy, outcome expectations, goals, and so on, these kinds of ideas. And they recognize that also in this model, they need to recognize that different people are different. So they put some personal factors in, and then they recognize the contextual elements of this. And then they also recognize people will learn. So again, we've got this idea of experience and learning and so on as a way in which we develop our capacity to have confidence that we can do things and be motivated ultimately to achieve them. And they view this very much as a recursive system. It's not that we simply develop self-efficacy and then encounter the environment and then learn or so on. These things are going around, they're all connecting to each other and influencing each other in a kind of range of complicated ways. Now, there have been a number of criticisms of social cognitive theories and of these kinds of theories of motivational learning. So people who would criticize this would say that social cognitive theory is an incomplete learning model that neglects, for example, knowledge-based learning and autodidactic learning, so learning by yourself. The model conceptualizes context quite narrowly and doesn't really engage with larger social, economic, and cultural differences. It's strongly focused on the individual and values individual self-efficacy. As such, it might ignore contextual barriers that cannot be overcome with self-efficacy. Basically, we can't be so confident we can overcome every problem that we might face. And I think there's also scope to highlight the relationship to career guidance further, i.e. how can we make use of these theories, which the social cognitive theorists don't say enough about, I think. So I offer you some literature for you to have a look at if you want, a bibliography here, which hopefully will be useful. And to sum up, I would say motivation is an important part of learning. There's a lot of research that explores motivation from different perspectives. I've only touched on this. A lot of motivational research can be easily applied to careers. And social cognitive theories help to summarize and systematize a lot of motivational research to make it usable. The idea of self-efficacy is very important in these theories, but it's also important to criticize some of these theories, especially in relation to the large role that they give to the individual. So thank you for listening. I hope some of that's been of interest, and I hope you enjoy getting motivated about motivation.